Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through some of the problems on the 9A assignment. First one's number 1. For each unit circle illustrated, state the exact coordinates of points A, B, and C in terms of sine and cosine, and then use your calculator to give the coordinates of A, B, and C corrected to 3 decimal places. So point A is going to be, it's this angle right here, 26, so the x value is going to be cosine 26. The y value is going to be sine of 26. Right? Because cosine is adjacent, which is going to be the x, over the hypotenuse. And sine is opposite, which is the up and down here, the vertical. That's y over 1 here. So that's why it's sine 26. Okay. Point B is going to be this one right here. So it's going to be cosine 146, sine 146. And then point C is going to be cosine 199 and sine 199. So to go through and find out what all of those are as a decimal, we're just going to plug those into the graphing calculator. All right, so we want to go through and plug those in. If that's the first time you've been doing sines and cosines on your calculator, you're going to want to go double check to make sure that you are in degrees mode. Very important, because if you're not in degrees mode, you're going to get a lot of weird answers. You're going to be thinking you're doing everything wrong when actually it's just your calculator. Okay, so once we know we're in the right mode, we're good to go. So now I'm just going to do cosine 26. It says round it to 3 decimal places, so it's going to be 0.899 for the x, and then the y is going to be sine 26, just like what we have here, 0.438. Okay, so that is this is part I here, and this is part I here, where we're doing it to correct to 3 decimal places. Okay, so we keep doing that with the rest of these here. So we do cosine 146, and that is negative 0.829. And then the sine of 146 gives us 0.559. Oops, 599, is that right? Or 559? 559. I had it right the first time. Oops, 559. Okay, and that should hopefully make sense as to why the cosine is negative, because now the cosine is going to the left to get to B, so that should be negative. And we're still going up, so that's why the sine is still positive. Okay, and then for part C, we're going to simply hit cosine 199, and that is negative 0.946. And then the sine of 199 is going to be negative 0.326. Okay, and hopefully that makes sense, because again, we're going to the left, negative for the x, and we're going down, negative for the y. That's why they're both negative. Okay? All right, moving on. Number 3, use your calculator to evaluate these two, and then we're going to copy and complete the following table. Okay, so first thing, let's use our calculator to evaluate this. 1 divided by the square root of 2 gives us 0.707. Okay, and then root 3 over 2. I've got root 3 divided by 2 gives us 0.577. Okay, so it says copy and complete the following table. Use your calculator to evaluate the trig ratios, then A to write them exactly. So here's really what we're looking at doing here. We are going to simply put in sine of 30. So we'll do sine 30, and we get 0.5. So we know that that's just going to be simply 1/2. And then we do sine of 45, and we get 0.707. Now we know that 0.707 is 1 over root 2, and honestly I like a lot better than 1 over root 2. So we have 1 over root 2. We don't ever really in math like to have roots in the denominator, so we have to rationalize the denominator. So if we multiply both by root 2 over root 2, that gives us on the top root 2, and then root 2 times root 2 is root 4, which is just 2. So I would say instead of writing 1 over root 2, let's do root 2 over 2 instead. Okay, so root 2 over 2 is going to be your better answer. The back of the book's probably going to have 1 over root 2, but this is your little bit better answer. Okay, and then all we're going to do is just kind of keep doing this all the way through. So we'll do sine 60, and we get 0.866, which we don't have either of those. Oh, that's because there's another part over here that you were supposed to do on the calculator. Okay, scratch that. Way back here, I messed this one up. This is supposed to be, I don't know what I did on that one. It's supposed to be 0.866, 0.866. All right, so now, since we ended up getting, so that's what root 3 over 2 is supposed to give us. So then we did sine of 60, and that got us 0.866. So we know that this is root 3 over 2. Okay, and then we're just going to keep on trucking for all the rest of these. So we do, excuse me, sine 135, 0.707, so that's root 2 over 2. And yeah, we just continue on this fun little trek here until we're done. Sine 150 is 0.5, so we know that that's 1/2. And then the thing is this doesn't necessarily follow a pattern here, because you can tell they kind of start going up by different amounts each time. Otherwise, you might be able to try to use the pattern that we talked about in the notes. But these are kind of some various places throughout. So these are just going to be wisest. Unless you have the whole graph chart filled out in front of you, you can copy it straight from there. Just plug it into your calculator. That'll work fine too. Sine 240 is negative 0.866, so it's negative root 3 over 2, and then 315, and we get negative 0.707, so negative root 2 over 2. Okay, nice part about changing this into root 2 over 2 is, look, all of these are over 2 instead of all of them except for the one that's 1 over root 2. Fill it in the second half, you just do the same thing. We're going to just do cosine 30, and that gives us 0.866, so that's root 3 over 2. And then we got cosine 40, oops, not 5. Cosine of 45 gives us 0.707, so that's our root 2 over 2. Notice that sine and cosine are both the exact same, because 45-degree angle makes a isosceles triangle, so those two legs are going to be the exact same. That's why that works out like that. Cosine 60 gives us 1/2, and then we got cosine of 135, negative 0.707, so that's negative root 2 over 2. And then cosine 150 gives us negative 0.866, so that's negative root 3 over 2. And then cosine 240 is negative 1/2. And then the last one is cosine of 315. It's 0.707, so that's root 2 over 2. And now we filled everything in. Okay, so as you can tell, it's not super, I mean, it's kind of tedious to go through and put those all in the calculator, but if you do know what these things simplify to, it will make it easier if you're using a calculator, or you can just use your chart that we have from our notes, because we're gonna look at those a fair amount. Okay, moving on. Number 6, explain why cosine of 400 equals cosine of 40. So just really quick to show how that's working, cosine 400 is 0.766, and then if we do cosine of 40, look, we get the exact same number. And the reason why is if you take 400 and subtract 360 degrees, guess what? That's the same thing as cosine of 40. Okay, so basically what they're saying is here's, say, 40 degrees. So if we're going to do the cosine of that, it's just going to be this value, this x value right here, right? And if you're going to do 400 degrees, guess what? We'll do that in a different color here. If we do 400, there's 360 plus this right here. That gives us 400. So this is going to be the exact same point here. So it's also going to be that exact same x. Okay. Last one, number 7. The coordinates on the unit circle alongside have been rounded to 3 decimal places. Use the unit circle to determine the value of cosine of 27. Cosine is the x value here, right? Let's go back to our blue here. That's our x value, right? So that's going to be 0.981. 891, sorry. Okay. Sine of 131. Now look, there's no 131 that's showing up on here, but look, if we take 90 plus 41, that gives us 131. So that's this point right here. Sine is always going to be the height right here. That's going to be our y value. So that is 0.755. And then cosine of 387. So 387 minus 360 gives us 27 back. So it's the same exact thing as this right here. And it's also cosine. So this is also going to equal 0.891. Okay? All right, that's all we have for problems from the 9A assignment. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks.